always want to get to the demos as soon as possible. I want to turn things over to Meta to give updates on the technical front.
Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be
Welcome back.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I missed all of you. I truly did. It was a little hard for me to unplug, but I managed to do it somehow to avoid falling off the mountain. So all good stuff. I've been spending the last couple of days ramping up with the team and getting my feet, getting back engaged in. I wanted to say thank you to Kelly Foster for standing in my stead while I was gone. I know she's been working a lot of hours trying to do both the jobs in my absence. So I'm very grateful to her. So I want to start my update off by saying that. So thank you, Kelly. So let's get on with it. So please welcome Ovidiu Diac to the development team. He'll be joining the Rolang team developing system contracts. We onboarded 2 developers during my absence as well, and they have both joined the storage team working with Henry on RSpace. And we got demos for Node 4. So Node 4 drops tomorrow. We will be doing the launch announcement, and we're working on documentation and testing at the moment, but we've got a demo from Michael Birch, which I'm sure you will all be very interested in seeing. And then we've got a demo from Sebastian, who'll be demoing some of the new Node features. Moving on to the updates, the Rolang team. The Rolang team has implemented logical connectives. This is support for and, or, and not. It's fairly important in the language to build, the kind of logic that you need in any programming language. So that was a big undertaking. That work is complete, and pull requests have been merged. And examples are being added that demonstrate how these features will work in the language. So there should be examples for folks to reference here. In Casper, the team is working on equivocations. There's a wiki page on the core wiki. So if you wanted to read up on Kent's proposal, you can find it there. And our demo today will demonstrate Rolang in the block. So Michael Birch will be giving us that demo after my update. The Node team has implemented TLS, the TCP transport layer. That was a goal for the Node 4 release, and I have to give kudos to Pavel. He really worked very, very hard to make that happen. The dev team worked very hard to make sure that we could get it done. There were some challenges in getting the implementation done, as Kademlia was very tightly coupled with UDP. So ripping that out and separating it was a fairly big undertaking. In Node 4, you will still see the UDP protocol there, and you'll see the first and second phase handshake. That's because we've not ripped out UDP yet. We'll be removing that and re-implementing Kademlia as part of the Node 5 work, but we felt it best to leave it in there for the time being and just focus on getting the TCP implementation in place. We're going to let it harden for 30 days before we rip out and re-implement Kademlia. So it's good to take small steps when talking about a change this large. Starting the node now will generate a certificate if one doesn't exist, and this is part of the TLS implementation. And as a quick note, if you are going to run multiple versions or multiple instances of Node on your local machine, you need to have multiple shared directories or multiple mount points if you're using Docker, so that you are not sharing a certificate across multiple Node instances. So this is a little bit of a hidden thing. Because the node requires a certificate on startup, if you're running n nodes, you need n var folders where new certificates or certificates for that particular instance of node will be generated and or stored or accessed. We'll have documentation on this nuance, but just keep that in mind that one certificate per node instance equals one directory per node instance. Let's see, we've got an initial flavor of history and rollback is in flight. Henry will be finishing that up. That's part of the Node 5 work. It's not part of Node 4. And Node 5 will bring to bear the production version of RSpace for the blockchain. We've got some code to measure COM events in a pull request. So very excited about this. As you all are aware, our target is 40,000 COM events per second. We need to be able to measure that as soon as possible, which is why we've got a PR in place to get that metric in front of everybody. We are specifying execution traces, and these will be stored in the blocks as part of the COM event route. So execution traces are basically a map of all the events that happened since the last block proposal. And this is a way that other nodes can update their state to match the state of that is part of a block proposal. Henry is working on that. And we've got a demo of metrics and TLS and TCP that Sebastian will be giving as part of the node work. The Roscala team, the refactoring for mutability is going smoothly. They seem to be unblocked on the refactor. They're also working on a thread-safe model / multi-threading for Roscala, and that PR is coming soon. In the project plan that was slated to happen later, we've moved it up because it's simply more efficient to get it done now vis-a-vis adding it later. So the team has chosen to take on that work at this time so that when the transition function is done, it will be multi-threaded out the gate. The object code export is close to being done. And what this means is, currently the Roscala VM requires that you run boot RBL even for it to boot up. And what the object code export will do is it will enable this to just be run once, export the code, and then the objects are available to Roscala. So boot.rbl is not required at every time the system receives some code to run. So this is a good enhancement, for lack of a better term. And we've got the documentation, the opcodes is complete, but we're waiting for the transition function to be completed before we start focusing on compiling down to opcodes. That's way further on the project plan. There's a lot of other work that's higher priority at this time. And with the transition function not being done, we've got the documentation. We're just laying it to the side for the time being. A quick reminder, RCon 3 conference page is now available. It's on developer.rchain.coop. Please do go check it out. And thank you for feedback on our survey to help plan the program for RCon 3. And we're still accepting speakers. Deadline is June 1st. So please go check out the website. And if you want to speak, fill out an application with all your details and get that in as soon as possible. And I am happy to turn this over to demos. Michael, do you want to go first?
Yep, sounds good. Alrighty, so I'll share my screen here. All right, does everyone see this?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right, and the font is big enough?
No, I don't see any text.
I see green, blue, and white text, and I can read it.
It definitely
Maybe
depends
make
on
the
what
font
you're
larger. That would help.
Larger font, all right. Let's
Some people are probably on mobile, so just be aware of that as well. Like this is recorded, so.
All right, there, how's that?
First grade, here we go.
All right, so I'm just pulling up the help for the new node release. It's called .3, but this is like compiled with the .4 code. And so notably, there's this little change here. When you start up a node, it is going to generate a Genesis block. And in the Genesis block, it needs to know who the validators are and what their stakes are. And so this file tells that information to the node. If this flag isn't provided, it will generate one automatically for testing purposes. And if it does generate one automatically, then you can specify how many validators you want to have on your network. The other notable change here is this propose flag. The idea here is that it is interfacing with gRPC in order to propose a block to the network. So this is basically just a command line flag that's useful for testing and demos like we're doing right now, but in production, node operators can write their own client for the gRPC interface API and manage the flow as they want, the flow of proposing blocks to the network. And we'll also talk a little bit about this new one, which is the show block function. But all right, so for starters, I'll just show you the bonds file. So the bond file is straightforward. You have public keys and staked amounts. And when you generate one, it automatically just sets the stakes from 1 to the number of validators. But of course, you can edit this file to make it whatever you want, or you could have provided your own from the start. But this is the file that we'll be using for the demo today. And I've generated a copy of this file for each of the different instances of the node that I'm running, which, as Meta pointed out, each need their own data directory because they each need their own certificate. So I've also got that set up as well. All right, so we're going to do this test using Docker. So I'm just going to paste in a couple Docker commands for us. So we're going to set up a little network for them to work with, and then we're going to boot up our first node. And so you can see here that I'm specifying the bonds file. And note that in Docker, you have to mount the right folder to the right place to make that work. So it just takes a minute to boot up. There we go. Okay, so now we've got our first node, and we'll give it some peers as well. So these peers are set up to connect to the node that we just started. All right. And so now we're going to deploy a contract. So I guess I didn't mention this when we were looking at the help file, but we have this -- deploy flag, and you can give it a rolling source file. And that source file will be passed to the node and be processed using the interpreter and prepared to be deployed to the network. But it doesn't actually make a block until you use the -- propose flag. So you have to deploy as many contracts as you want, and then at some point you propose a block to tell everyone else about what was deployed. So we'll go ahead and run that. And again, this is just a simple interface on top of the gRPC API. So again, in production, node operators can make this workflow however they like as well. The gRPC gives you back a message. In this case, it was successful, but of course, you might get an invalid syntax error or something else that the interpreter tells you is wrong with your source file. But if we look at that source file just to see what it is, it's just a simple contract that adds two numbers together. And so we'll see this contract appear on all of the nodes of our network, and actually each different node can make use of this contract at that point. So let's go ahead and propose our block. It's worth pointing out that because this is just a demo API, you have to explicitly give the secret key of the validator that you're using to sign the message, because it does check for signatures. And these are also generated automatically if you don't provide a bonds file. And of course, in production, you would want to protect your secret key, but that's why it's, again, through a gRPC API. And so node operators can set it up to be in whatever security model they want. So we go ahead and do this. And it'll think for a moment. All right. So let's see what happened. So here's our different Docker images. So node 0 is the one that actually did the deploy. So let's take a look at node 2 here. So notice that it's got 2 peers, and it receives this block from node 0. And then it forwards the block to its peers, which is how ultimately the blocks propagate around the network. We see that it's added that block into its internal state, and it gets it back from another peer as well. And the fork choice is now set to that current block as well. And so the fork choice is actually easier to follow now in this version because you have the bonds file, right? So you know what all the weights of the different validators are, and so you can see who sent it, what their stake is, and sort of set up for yourself a little test to show that the fork choice rule, the inclusive ghost estimator, is working as expected. So just to prove that this is working correctly, let's take a look at the block. So I mentioned briefly that there's this show block thing. So I want to show block C4, 5. So the way this works is that you give it the beginning part of a hash. You don't have to give it the whole thing, and it will go in and look up that block, and if it's there, give some information about it. And so notice that we are running this on node 1, which is different than the node that we deployed, right? We deployed to node 0. So we're seeing that the block does in fact exist on these other nodes. And again, this just takes a moment. And so what we see coming out of this is information about the block, like its full hash, how big it is in bytes, what number, things about the tuple space, right? Some of you will be familiar with this kind of an output from the interpreter. It tells you what time it was created and things about the parents. And I'll mention that Kent has been working on taking this information and presenting it in a nice web interface. So maybe, Kent, if you want to talk about that for a moment.
Cool. Yeah. Can I share screen? Don't mind.
Michael, you gotta stop sharing your screen.
Yep.
Cool.
There you go.
All right. So, yeah, as Michael just explained, you know, we have an API with the show block gRPC endpoint, and so we can actually now use that information and plug it into a repurposed Bitcoin block explorer. So what you see on the left here is basically that. So if you propose a new block, that what I'm doing on the right side of the screen, you know, you can see the sort of the command line interface going here, but you also see a new block pop up here. And so, you know, this shows all the same things that the show block API shows from the command line, like height, you know, the timestamp, the size, etc. There's still some things that we need to fill in, but in general, this gives us a nice UI to look through, and we're hoping to build on this, especially in terms of the fault tolerance thresholds and filling in the actual transactions in a nice or easy to see format. Yep. I'll pass it back to you, Mike.
Are you muted, Mike?
Yeah, you might be muted, Mike.
Sorry. Yeah, so I'm going to show one more thing here. So what we're going to do is add one more node into our network, our node 3. And so this node doesn't know at this point about the first block, right? Because it joined the network after the first block was sent around. But that's okay, because we in this release are now also implementing a way for nodes to ask each other for blocks that they're missing. So if we go ahead and set up another deploy and proposal, so here we're deploying, actually, well, yeah, whatever. We're deploying one of the, actually, sorry, I want to deploy a different contract. Well, I'll deploy both, might as well. Yeah, so that's one of the rolling examples. But I also want to deploy the other contract, this test2.row. And test2.row makes use of the add contract that I showed you earlier. Right, so it just takes the numbers 5 and 7, it'll add them together and store the result in this cool result name. So if we go ahead and, so I deployed this on node 1, so I'm going to propose it on node 1. And again, it thinks for a moment. So if we take a look at node 3, which was the new one that we just added. So notice that, scroll up here. Right, so it receives block number 2, and block number 2's parent is of course block number 1, and it says, I don't have block number 1. So I'm going to ask all of my peers for block number 1, and then the peers respond. So we see that it receives block number 1, and then it goes ahead and processes it. And after it's finished processing it, it'll process block number 2. And then, after all of this is finished, at the end, we've got the block number 2 is the new fork choice. And so once again, we can see using show block that the contract did in fact run and did in fact make use of the add contract that we showed earlier. So let's do this on node 3. We're going to show the new block that we just added, so this 6E3 block. And there we see our cool result with 5 and 12 added, 5 and 7 added together to make 12, successfully written there. All right, so that's all I've got for my demo here. Does anyone have questions about this?
We need some trumpets blaring and some fanfare. That was pretty awesome.
Thank you.
This is really, really fantastic. Hopefully other folks are appreciating exactly what's coming together here.
Thank you, Michael, very much. That was a wonderful demo. Can we turn it over to Sebastian now?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Before we go forward, should I in the future, as we're recording these, do you want these demos cut and then re-upload it so it's just the demo footage because that was 15 minutes of just straight demos, you know what I mean?
I do.
Yes,
right,
please.
Okay, no problem. We'll take care of that.
Sweet. All right. Now for Sebastian.
Yes, sir.
Yes, hi. So I will share my screen. Share screen. Okay. So as our work on the node part, we added some new metrics to the node, especially to the Prometheus endpoint. And I will demonstrate this. We need to start a standalone node for this. Okay. Okay. So what we added are JVM metrics, for instance, and we can access them. Oops. Okay, we have to wait, I guess, 30 seconds or something like that at this metrics. And so this will be metrics about CPU usage, garbage collection, memory pools, memory usage, and thread pools. Oh, here they are. So it's a lot, right? And for example, memory heap usage. It's not really for humans to read, it's Prometheus, right? So we have also exposed the same metrics over our gRPC API. To collect this metrics, just for presentation purposes, there is also this diagnostics option on our node with -d, where we can fetch the same metrics over gRPC. And this looks much, much better, I guess. So what we see here is are the node call metrics, how many peers we have, CPU load, memory usage, heap memory, non-heap memory, memory pools, non-heap, and what you have. Then we have the garbage collectors, and finally the threads. Yeah, okay. We have also store metrics. I forgot about the store metrics. We also added some store metrics, how much we use actually space on the disk. So yeah, you can access this over two APIs, right? Over Prometheus and over gRPC for integration with your systems. The second part I would like to demonstrate, it's not much. The second part I would like to demonstrate is we moved to a new transport layer away from UDP to TCP in combination with gRPC and protobuf. So we are now using TLS certificates to secure the transport layer. And to start up a node, you need to provide them. Or if you will not provide them, they will generate it for you. So I provided them here for this Bootstrap node because I need to know a fixed address. But it's there. Let's take a look at it's what is it? Development, RChain data, node one, node certificate PAM, right? This is the certificate for the Bootstrap node, for my standalone node, which I will spawn again here. Here, node one. You can see. Is there actually the font big enough? Can you see everything?
Yeah, it is for me.
Okay. Yeah, awesome. So okay, as you can see, I'm spawning here node one. You can recognize this by the data dir as standalone. Okay, so here is our node address, and in previous versions like .3, this was some arbitrary random address, or you could provide it by an option on startup. But now it's actually a generated address from the public key from the certificate. And at this moment, this is based on the SecP 256 R1 elliptic curve. But we will eventually move to SecP 256 K1 curve. But we decided to use R1 for this moment because we are investigating some things with dependencies, and you want to make sure that it works on every platform and with OpenJDK. And so we have our standalone node, and let's spawn a second node. Let's make sure that we have no certificates in the node 2. Okay, no matches found. So node 2. Okay, this is it. This is a bootstrap address, the same. F1. Yeah, that's it. Okay, what you can see here is no certificates found at pass. So we generate it for you. And we use R1 curve. And as you can see, it's still working. We didn't break it. Our new transport layer of our gRPC is working. You can see that on both sides, we have peer 1. And one feature of this is if you try to, Control C. If you try to connect to some bootstrap node and you got the wrong address, perhaps the node that shut down and a new node did spawn with a different address, and you expect that you are connecting to a completely different node, then the node will not spawn up, because I'm not sure if we are logging this at this moment. But yeah, if not, we will add some logs to this. But the node recognizes that the server we are talking to is not the server we are expecting to talk to, because the server has a different identifier. So this public key part is different. Yeah, that's actually it, I believe. Or was there something else I would like to demonstrate? Meta? No, this was transport layer and metrics, right?
Yes, I think so. That's it. I haven't run the Prometheus piece of it. I believe Jeremy probably has. Kelly, is Jeremy the one that really knows how to run the Prometheus visualization?
Jeremy does, and there's a very detailed how-to guide in GitHub.
Okay.
I'll put a link to it.
Yeah, under Docker, we only have the one metric, the peers. I have that in, we'll add that on in the next sprint. We'll add the other metrics because we just added a slew of metrics in there so they can visualize all this stuff. So we'll be getting that in.
Okay, very good.
But people can add whatever they want into it. It's pretty easy. So.
Terrific. Okay, sounds good.
Quick question. Is the certificate just for the comms layer, or does it actually sign messages on the chain as well?
The intention is that it does both.
And could you switch keys if you wanted to?
If you did, you would have to switch keys at the transport layer as well. So you'd have to reboot the node with a new, and that would switch the node identity as well.
Okay.
So sorry, Kenny, your question was about whether you're signing. So actually, sorry, the node communication is in principle separate from stuff on the blockchain, right? So you could send a message that is signed with some other key over the network, then
by a different key.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That was a design discussion that we had.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would very much recommend. I use keys for lots of different stuff with one session all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's definitely the case today, is that the certificate is only used to communicate between peers, and signing blockchain messages is left open-ended for the user to figure out what they want to do.
Perfect.
Yeah, so they can use the same one, but they don't have to.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you.
Just a quick note to everyone who's presenting demos, make sure you turn off your notifications, Discord or otherwise, because I'm like seeing people's messages. So like Sebastian, like you received a message on Discord that's broadcast on YouTube. So it's not a big deal, but like something could be sensitive in the future. So that's just a general warning to anybody presenting demos to turn off your notifications so that people on YouTube are not seeing your messages.
Okay, right.
Awesome. We'll figure this out as we go. Very good. That was fantastic. The amount of progress here is really, really striking, and it's really good to see all of the features coming together in such an organized fashion. Meta, did you have anything else for us?
That's it. I've ate up half of the Hangout already, so.
Yeah, no. No, that was really, really good. I really appreciate that. We have another technical update. As some people know, we're working with Primavera de Filippi and on a project for Burning Man, and the co-op has hired Kevon Ka to work on some of the technical aspects of that. And I wanted to introduce Kevon and give him a chance to sort of say where he is in terms of his status. Kevon, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you. Hi, as Greg said, this is Kevon Kazaminejad. I live in San Francisco. I should probably turn my video on. There we go. I live in San Francisco and been talking to Greg about this project. Basically, in a nutshell, let me share my screen with you so I can talk in terms of a diagram. Hopefully everybody could see my diagram now.
Still seeing your face. Oh, there we go.
Okay. So basically the idea is to have at least one, but potentially more Raspberry Pis and deploy Erlang in there and run the spigot algorithm, which will generate digits of pi and natural log. And based on those, generate music. So you have the Raspberry Pis here, and then through Bluetooth, they broadcast the music to speakers. And we have some light sensors that those light sensors will basically be the input to these spigot algorithms for generating the digits. I've had a number of conversations with some of the developers regarding FFI and such, and I think we finally got to a point that I have a roadmap as to how I'm going to develop this and deploy it to the Pis. But in a nutshell, we'll be running Docker on these Raspberry Pis, and that's how we'll be deploying it. So that's pretty much where I am now. The coding is I got the Scala version of the Pi and the natural log generator completed and deployed to the Pi. And now I'm working in actually generating music from those, again, in Scala for now.
This is fantastic. Wonderful.
So awesome.
We are going to have some fun at Burning Man, I'm telling you. Thank you very much, Kevon, for your update.
You bet.
All right.
Just a
Yes.
question, Craig. Is Primavera or another party, potentially PowerFX, going to be doing any type of scheduling or organizing so that we make the best use of our time if we are like doing any type of filming or shooting at Burning Man? Do you understand what I'm saying? Just like we have this conference.
Yeah, I absolutely understand what you're saying. That coordination has yet to take place. I just wanted to make sure that the development was well underway. And now we're going to circle back with Primavera and sort of give her a status update, check on her status, and start the coordination.
Great.
Yep. Absolutely. You're on top of things as usual, Christian. I really appreciate it. So before we hear from our venture partners, I want to do a quick walk around. The reason I'm not at the library is because I'm at our house. So I'm going to turn my camera on here and let people see our house. This is where we will be holding meetings and conducting business. This will be the official address of the U.S. Co-op. I don't know if everyone can see this.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a pretty nice space. In this kitchen, we'll have the Linea Mini from La Marzocca. The chance for people to take a breath of fresh air, or possibly even meet outside on clement days, and then quite a bit of office space and places for people who are in town and want to be hacking for a few days to crash. So just give a quick view for people. What was a master bedroom is going to become one of the main offices, and we will have a place for Dev to hang out here and here. And then back here, we have more office space here and here. And then this is where we have a room dedicated to our AV functions. So shooting the videos and for education purposes and other purposes. So completely dedicated to the AV. So I just wanted people to get a sense of, how the physical spaces are developing. So go ahead.
Greg, do we expect like the general counsel or the board to come up with essentially the community guidelines in terms of how, I mean, this is common sense, but how behavior is conducted, if there's issues with people, anything like that? I mean,
yes. Yeah, we have a role for property manager, and there will be guidelines and all of that stuff. Yeah, that's all underway.
And also, do we expect like security audit on the router and everything like that? So like potentially there's no attacks.
Yeah,
I don't even know where you live, but this will definitely be a public address where people can come to. I'm assuming so.
Yeah, that's correct. That's right.
Sweet.
Very, very good questions. So, does anyone else have any other questions?
Well, I just have a comment from this side. We're also going to be doing some neighbor outreach in the next coming weeks. So we're going to produce a flyer for the neighbors so that they know what's going on in the R House, because it is a residential area. So we do have to be courteous to our neighbors as well. So that'll be happening relatively shortly as well.
Fantastic. Very, very good. Awesome. So with that little interlude, let me turn it over to Reflective and get some updates from them.
Hi, thank you, Greg. Well, like yourself, I'm actually sitting in the new Reflective / RChain downtown offices in Pioneer Square. So we're getting closer on construction. Bill and Kate, Lilia, they were all down here with us. So it looks like in about a week and a half, we'll be all ready to go, and I'll give you guys a grand tour of that when that's all completed. But we're shooting for that first or second week of June. We should be all set. So we're super excited about that. We're headed down to Palo Alto for a legal blockchain conference that starts tomorrow and goes through Friday. David Otto is speaking. Greg, I'm not sure if you're healthy enough to still make that trip down there or not, but you're on the agenda as well. And if not, again, no worries there. We'll get you covered. So that's something that's happening over the next couple of days. We're headed out to Boston next week. A bunch of us are. We're meeting with MIT and Harvard guys. As you know, we've been doing some strong outreach with some of the universities in the country. So we struck the deal with Harvard, and we're close on the MIT side. So we'll have some more updates from that, but we'll be calling in from Boston next week. We're super excited. I don't remember if I mentioned it last week or not, but we did hit our 12th deal that we got funded. And if some of you recall, part of the mandate that we had in our agreement with Co-op was that we were going to fund 12 companies in the first year. So we're pretty proud that we got that done in in about 3.5 months versus the 12 months. So we've hit that, and I think we've met pretty much all of the requirements that we had in that agreement as far as events and our office space and all of that. So we'll be continuing on that path. Again, doesn't mean that we're slowing down, but we're excited about that. We had 9 new deals presented this week that are in deal flow. And I'm going to hand it over to, and I'm going to start doing this every week so that you guys get some more in-depth. Most of you know the different team members, but I'll reintroduce Mrinal, who's going to talk a little bit about 2 deals that we closed last week. Both of these companies have been deeply involved with the community, so you'll probably recognize some of the names, but we'll take a little bit of time each week to go through the different deals that we've gone. So he'll just spend about a minute or so on each one of these. So for that, I will hand it over to Mrinal.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So I'll talk about the 2 deals that we signed this week. Deal number 1 is a company called RChain, founded by Gotham. All of you who attended the Dev conference in Boulder or our event at Consensus probably have met him. Really, the question to ask about like what RChain does is, what if we could insure events in addition to assets? So it's a blockchain-enabled, app-driven, smart insurance product designed for the on-demand economy. And if you're thinking about target use cases, it's the ability to insure rented experiences, think Uber rides, Airbnbs, the ability to insure potentially injurious experiences, such as playing basketball, skiing, skydiving, etc. And then the ability to insure logistics, trucking, transfer markets, etc. The reason why these aren't insured currently is because there isn't a micropayments platform and there isn't a way to have end-to-end contract validation that's automatic. And hence, insurance companies haven't brought these products to market as they focus more on macro insurance products, given the slow movement and time to product creation that they have. What's great about the business is primarily taking P&L risk and no balance sheet risk, because they're partnering with insurance companies who are actually underwriting the underlying product, while these guys bring technology to bear to deliver the product over to the insurance companies. As you can imagine, the total addressable market is fairly big, and they're very, very excited to build on the RChain platform. I'll stop there for any questions on RChain, and if there aren't any, I'll go over to the next one. Any questions, guys?
Are you? When I spoke with Gotham a couple of times, the vision is already large, but I got the impression that his vision was maybe a little bit larger. That he was really looking at some of the sort of bottlenecks that we see in healthcare and other industries.
Yes, absolutely. So this is just the plan for the first year of our funding that I laid out. But really, there's multiple markets in addition to these, such as healthcare, automotive insurance, and the whole gamut of insurance products. The reason why they're focusing on these first these are the most likely use cases that insurance companies will partner with them on, and they've already got 3 or 4 insurance companies on board. For confidentiality reasons, I can't disclose those, and they have 9 more in the pipeline. So really, it's low-hanging fruit first. But Greg, you're spot on. The actual ambition for the underlying platform is much larger and wants to disrupt insurance in general.
This is very exciting. I can't tell you how many times I've wanted to take that particular problem on, and I'm so glad that somebody else can do it.
Yeah, we're super excited too. We saw multiple insurance plays, and this one was the one that we were most excited about.
Good. And what's the other one?
Anyone else had a question on RChain? Otherwise, as Greg suggested, I'll go to the next one. All right, I'll move on to the next one. The next one is Kogil. Again, if any of you who were at the Boulder conference, anyone who's at the Boulder conference would have met the founder, Michael Guadarrama. a little bit about his background. Spent 20 plus years in automated trade execution and systematic research, both at Bridgewater, largest hedge fund in the world, and T. Rowe Price, multi-trillion-dollar asset manager, mostly for passive assets. The vision here is really to shape the future of finance by radically improving the ubiquity of independent and co-authored research. So I'll talk about the problem and then the headwinds that are affecting the industry. The problem right now is if you think about research that asset managers buy, the asset manager themselves faces big challenges. There's high prices, no way to really buy a la carte, inconsistent quality, and poor transparency in the end-to-end process. When you think about the data science provider challenges, it's slow transactions, they're not on a one-to-one basis, lots of missed opportunities because people can't buy a la carte, and also inadequate security. One of the biggest headwinds facing this industry, and just so you know, asset managers just in Europe and North America spend north of $40 billion a year on research, is that there's also a massive regulatory headwind coming. Currently, the way investment research is sold is it's bundled with transaction fees. So you go to a broker, say Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan, and you have a brokerage account with them, you pay them millions of dollars, and then they bundle research along with that. MIFID in Europe is going to make that illegal going forward, so those have to become unbundled, and similar legislation is likely to come to the United States of America, where no longer will those be bundled and they have to be paid for separately. And therefore, all these issues that I just laid out become exacerbated. And so Cogil is building a platform by combining familiar consumer user experiences with Wall Street execution, removing the hurdles in building an internal state-of-the-art research house. That's the summary. We're very excited about the team. Couldn't think about a team more qualified to take on this huge challenge, and excited to work with them in bringing this to market. Any questions on this one?
Well, I'm really excited. I just keep wondering, like, how do you keep finding these amazing deals?
It's a lot of cycles. I think we talked about it internally. Our hit rate has been 1 in 14, so we've tended to have to look at a lot of them. But I guess when you look at a lot of them, some of them will be of high quality. And yeah, we're excited so far. Hopefully it continues. Also, the community has been a wonderful source of excellent deals. I think our hit rate when it's come through a community member or through a warm lead has typically been much higher than that. So I'd tell people to keep that up, and we're always here to listen to great ideas and hope to make them happen.
Fantastic. Well, I really want to thank you for your work and thank Reflective for really knocking it out of the park so far. It's really, really great work. I want to give another update. Actually, I mainly want to turn this over to Kenny. But over the last week, we've had very, very productive and extensive negotiations with Pythia on restructuring the strategic partnership agreement. This is why, in fact, we have Pythia back on the call. Well, welcome back to them. And I want to turn it over. The other thing that's been really very, very exciting about this is that the board has taken very, very much an active role here. It's really, really gratifying to see the board exercising proper governance and diligence and all of those kinds of things. So I want to turn it over to Kenny and sort of get his take on the process, where we are, and what we might expect in the next little bit.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. So I just want to keep it really general, just because it's not so important what the details are. But the board and through this negotiation has been I mean, at first we do apologize that it took as long as it did. We didn't want something like this to go on as long as 2 to 3 months and possibly longer. But we think we're in a good spot now. We think that everyone's had a chance to do an extensive amount of diligence and research. Multiple outside counsels were consulted, lots of negotiations, lots of discussion. And it's a complicated situation just because of the history with the organizations involved. So I think it's I want to set the stage for a productive working relationship going forward. And I think where we're at right now is we're in a really good spot. And I really am looking forward to seeing where we can do together in the future, not just with RChain and Pythia, but everybody in this ecosystem, that we're here to work together. But that's not always easy, but sometimes you just have to work things out. And that's kind of what's been happening over the last several weeks. On that note, we are not quite finished yet, but we're close enough that again, like Greg said, we wanted to welcome Pythia back to the calls this week. I'm also going to be continuing my office hours on Thursdays. It's going to be at 1:30 this week, where I can take questions, and I'll be happy to answer any more specific questions at that time, so I don't cut into anybody else's time. But thanks.
Thank you, Kenny. That's great. So any questions on that? And then I'd like to turn it over to Lawrence to give an update on where they are. Going once.
All right.
Go.
Any questions? I'm just waiting.
Going twice. All right, Lawrence, over to you.
So thanks, Greg and Kenny, for the words. Look forward to more discussions. I'll keep it brief. We got a few minutes. We've got 50 deals in the pipeline, 12 in Seattle. The numbers and the sourcing that we're getting from the community, from partners, from our internal networks has just been tremendous. And I want to use the word privileged with some of the deal flow that we're getting. And I'll talk about one as we get closer to some of the other ones, but we're seeing a lot in supply chain. And I just talked to probably one of the most ambitious projects of moving freight forwarders. That's all the large carriers, and their board and their team members include DHL, FedEx, Kuehne + Nagel, all of the major players in the space, and really building the industry consortium for how to move supply chain into the blockchain and using RChain as a foundation. So it's just an amazing conversation to be in with people who have not only created the industry, but continue to advance it and drive massive amounts of revenue every year. We've got a couple more in supply chain, so we're really still focusing on that infrastructure, picks and shovels, as we've always said, working on additional partnerships, and we'll announce some with other finance organizations. Our own move will come probably late August, when we'll be able to take our new space. I'm doing a number of different speaking engagements, including one in the Bay Area, so I'll be down there the 17th and 18th, meeting partners. I've been invited to a number of others, including Boston. And it's just been a wild ride of really interesting new companies. And we'll start figuring out how to provide different level of visibility into some of those other deals. And again, just thank you to the whole community for all the support and all the input that we're getting.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lawrence. I really appreciate it. And it's good to have you and Ed and Tamara and the whole team back on the call.
Greg,
all right.
do we have time for a few minutes on the bounty system?
In a minute. We have a special guest on. So Ella Kegel from Supermarkt has graciously joined the call from Germany. So it's quite a bit later in Germany, and she has some really, really good updates on what's going on with the formation of the Genossenschaft. So Ayla, if you're still there, if you haven't fallen asleep yet, can you give us an update?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Yeah, first of all, hi, and it's been really exciting to attend this call to get a better idea of what's actually going on within RChain, and thanks so far. Yeah, I'll keep it really brief. My name is Ela. I'm co-founder of Supermarkt Berlin. I work as a digital strategist, and within Supermarkt, we do research and we consult organizations and companies, and especially co-ops, of course, in building up their business models and working towards a collaborative economy. And we're also working closely with Peter Harris from Resonate, and that's why he linked us with RChain. And yeah, we started to have a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and we were asked whether we could help to found a German co-op, Genossenschaft, and that's what we're currently doing. And we are taking we are progressing step by step. We now have through this entire process, and now it's really about coming up with a specific business mandate for the German co-op, and also working on bylaws and articles and finance plan. And we are covering lots of ground day by day. We just had a weekly call 2 hours ago, and that's it very briefly. Do you have any questions?
Well, I wanted to thank you for the update, but I also wanted to mention that Ella and Peter and I have now sketched out a sort of in broad strokes, the same kind of organic interdependence that we would need between these two organizations. So I can give a very, very thumbnail sketch of what this is about. The U.S. co-op has largely focused on the actual nuts and bolts, the bits and bytes of the blockchain infrastructure. But in order to function as a co-op, there are a bunch of other tools, and we've all talked about the tools that we need, right? So we're going to need whatever the blockchain, whatever the best of breed identity solutions that get built on RChain, we're going to need to purpose one of those specifically for the co-op membership, in order for the co-op membership to be able to identify itself and then act as agents within the co-op. Additionally, we're going to need a number of governance tools. This is for the expression and collection of sentiment, and for the expression and collection of will. And here I'm being specifically more general and purposefully more general than just talking about voting mechanisms. We need different ways that we can collect impressions, sort of collective intelligence from the group, and then turn that into actionable steps from the co-op. And so we would like the German cooperative, first of all, to create those. And then the next step would be to package them up in a way that they could be reused by other cooperatives, and specifically platform cooperatives that are emerging. And this is turning out to be a fairly large market. So we're very excited because it's it's the kind of thing where they need the platform in order to build that, and we need that in order to build a platform. So again, it's this kind of virtuous loop that we're looking for here. That's very much a part of our reflective approach to building out RChain. So I was very excited that sort of emerged organically as a part of the discussions with Ela and Peter Harris. Any other questions about that, or about the formation of the co-op? I will say one thing, which is that Ela gave us some quite promising news that if we adopt approach of producing kind of minimum viable articles and bylaws, then it looks like it's realistic to have the co-op up and running and registered by Archon, or within the Archon timeframe, and then we can kind of bootstrap a better better version of the articles and bylaws post that event, which is again very much our iterative process, and that was very heartening to me, very exciting. Any other questions or comments about this? Awesome. I'm assuming people can still hear me.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So before the bounty system, I know we're running over time, but we do have a lot of updates. So I just want to get some others. Patrick, are you on the call?
Yep.
Awesome. Patrick, do you want to say a few words about yesterday's session with Gervin?
Yeah, sure. So yesterday was the actual workshop that we had with Gervin, where I think it was 8 of us attended, and they were a diverse set of representatives from different organizations in RChain, as well as different perspectives. So we had, I think it was a 5-hour workshop, if I remember correctly. And at the end of it, we ran through what we would think of like general outlines for a high-level RChain pattern language for the branding, in which people will be able to, or subsequent brands will be able to derive their branding from this exercise. I thought it was really fun, and I hope the other team enjoyed it as well. Thanks, Greg, for showing up. I know that your neck is bothering you. Yeah, so that was that exercise, and that was enjoyable, and we got a lot of quality conversations out of that. I know Tim's head was spinning, and he had a lot of ideas that we're going to explore further for the RChain brand, and I some of those are going to be really exciting, and we're very interested in getting the community's feedback with that. On that same note, in complement of the actual workshop, we did the first exercise with the community engagement, which was a Lumio poll to determine who what we were calling the Circle 2 people would be that would engage with the branding working group and interface with the community and the actual firm, which is Gervin. We got 126 participants on that, and I have sent out the notice to the top 11 that have been nominated, and we'll have those confirmed by the time that Gervin delivers their initial recommendation. And then also along with that, the marketing organization has been drafting and working on value propositions and messaging related to the actual products and the technology of that. So we synced that up with Gervin. It was a little bit late, but they have that information now, so that will be wrapped into their recommendations. Yeah, so a lot of going on in branding. It's coming together, and it's been a very enjoyable experience.
Fantastic. Any questions about that from people?
Cool. So the next steps will be, I think it's 8 business days. So June 8th, which is 9 days from now, they'll deliver a set, kind of an outline of a creative brief and recommendations. The community will then have approximately 10 days to get feedback and then reconcile that feedback, give it to them for what will begin the next phase, which is the actual development of the messaging tiers and some visual identity associated with that. So look forward to that. That's going to be expected around June 8th.
Fantastic. That's really, really exciting. Yeah, I was so impressed with Tim and the team. I again, just like every time we meet with them, the quality and the skill with which they listen was just really, really noticeable. So a couple of more updates. We'll hear from the bounty system. I know we're running over, and then I need to give a little bit of an update about my health and how that might impact the project. So if Alan, if you want to give a brief update on the bounty system, I'd appreciate that.
Thank you, Greg. I'm going to keep it really, really brief. I wanted to thank Ella, and I wanted to thank you for saying what I really would have liked to say, which is that we're discovering in the bounty system that the tools of collaboration are what we really need. We need to have discussion tools. The voting is important, but the discussion tools are the most important. Jim, are you prepared to show just a quick screenshot of what we have on voting boundary rewards? Can you do that right now? 1 second. 30 seconds.
Well, the guide system that we've developed, we have guides associated with the labels in the bounty system, and we're trying to develop norms for decentralized patterns and collective intelligence in the operation. And this interface was developed by about 5 people in real time together, which shows the labels by the guides for the label and what you're guiding personally. You can review these. You can go and vote on them. You can sort them by created and updated and go directly to the issue. You can view and vote on issues. It makes it the job of guiding the issues that you're responsible for much easier. And
okay,
that's
Jim,
it.
Thanks. We're running short of time, and I posted a link to a meeting that we held about about the guide system, and also you'll post a link right now to this interface where all of our cooperative members can vote on rewards.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim.
It does require a GitHub account. If you don't have one, I think when you go to the link, it'll let you sign up for one. And
thanks.
Thank you very much, Jim. Thank you, Alan. If you don't mind, I'm going to take it back unless there's a major update.
Nope, we got it. Thank you so much.
No, I really appreciate your time and energy on this. So actually, I do have 2 more quick updates. One is last night, Kenny Rowe and I met with Blockchain Insight Capital. They are a Chinese organization. We were put in contact with them because one of the largest rock holders from the end of year private sale knows them personally, and they are quite excited to partner with us to help establish the RChain's Chinese presence. So we're going to be helping them at least initially by getting them up to speed on Rolang, so that they can then roll out Rolang and RChain education programs in Hangzhou and some of the surrounding areas and some of the major Chinese universities. They're very, very active in the community organization and promotion of RChain, and this looks like just a perfect match. And again, it's evidence of this kind of, the red carpet rolling out for us. We didn't have to go find them; they found us. So very, very pleased to be working with these people. And Kenny, did you want to say anything more about that conversation?
It was a great conversation. It's always interesting trying to make the language or trying to negotiate the language barrier, but I think we did a fairly decent job. They're very much interested in collaboration, cooperation, and education, as well as developing community in China, which is a market that's very interested in the blockchain technology for very specific reasons. And so we're very excited to help them and continue this project across the globe.
Absolutely. So last thing, just so people are aware, because this might impact the project in some ways, we're trying to make sure that it minimizes the impact. I ended up in the emergency room Saturday night, Memorial Weekend. Got home about 9 o'clock in the morning on Sunday morning with the MRI results. So I have 3 discs, the discs between C3 and C4, C4 and C5, and C5 and C6, impinging on my spinal cord. I will be seeing, and as a result of that, I'm getting all kinds of symptoms, including very, very significant chronic pain and numbness in my hands and feet. I will be seeing a neurologist shortly, and I may end up having to go in for surgery. If I do, I will basically be out for some period of time, possibly as long as 2 months. We're going to do, if that is the case, and I'm hoping that it isn't, but if that is the case, then I will we'll do everything in our power to make sure we hit our Mercury timeline commitments. And you can rest assured that the team is working with that in mind. But it's my responsibility to make sure that everyone is apprised of the situation, and that we're doing our level best to make sure that events like this don't knock us off course or off track. It's heartening to see how replaceable I am.
Not replaceable.
So with that, unless there are any other questions or comments, we're way over time. We can call it. Any other thoughts, comments, or questions people might have for this hangout about anything we talked about? Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing everyone next week, if not before.
Good luck, Greg. Get well.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. All right, guys. Ciao for now.
Bye.